Hello YouTube! Let's talk about the 7 continents and where they get their names from. Or 6 continents? 5? No, 6 continents. Okay. I think we first need to answer, what are continents? There are many different ways of defining continents, and nobody can seem to agree on which one is correct. The most common definition to hear in classrooms or on the street, if you live on a street where people are often talking about the definition of continents, is large land masses separated by oceans. Using this definition, the continents are Australia, America, Antarctica, though really it's not the one landmass it appears to be, instead an archipelago of islands with ice on top. Afro-Eurasia, Greenland, New Guinea, Borneo, Madagascar? Where do we draw the line between continent and island? And Afro-Eurasia is way too OP. It's got 57% of the Earth's land area and 86% of the world's population. Instead, maybe we should check out tectonic plates. This definition feels way more scientifical. I like it. Now we've got Africa, Eurasia, Antarctica, South America, North America, Australia, India, I guess, Arabia too, the Caribbean, okay, the Pacific Ocean, all right. It's pretty clear the tectonic model has some pretty major faults. Maybe instead, continents are cultural. Take, for instance, this tiny little peninsula of Eurasia. They are pretty insistent that they are their own continent because of cultural reasons. Of course, it then becomes impossible to figure out where to draw the line between Asia and Europe, and it often ends up going right through Russia and Turkey. We've got pretty similar problems in the Americas. While plate tectonics would draw the line through Panama and Guatemala, making South America the Caribbean and North America, culturally it would more so be divided into Latin America and Boring America. And Africa would be like 20 different continents. I think the real answer here is whatever we say it is. Continent is a term we made up. It doesn't actually pertain to land masses separated by oceans or tectonic plates or even cultural differences. Our definition of continent is just whatever definition gives us the list of things that we think are continents. Even Google defines continents by just giving a list of the continents. In this video, we'll be defining the continents as the set of territories that give bonus troops in risk, plus Antarctica. All right, now that we know what a continent is, let's get started on figuring out the mystery of their names. Let's start with Africa. Contrary to popular belief, Africa is not named after the 80s rock song by band Toto, though admittedly, we aren't actually sure where Africa got its name from. Different theories include Afrika. This is an ancient Egyptian word meaning turning towards the Ka, or turning towards the birthplace. I find it unlikely, even though Africa is the birthplace of humanity. Africa. This is Latin for sunny, and it does get pretty sunny. This one's plausible. Afrique. This is Greek for without cold, which feels plausible. Plus, the historian who suggested this might be the origin of the word Africa was literally called Leo Africanus, so I feel like he knows what he's talking about. Ifrin. This comes from the Berber word Ifri for cave, and describes the cave-dwelling people of the Ifr in North Africa. It's possible, but I think the most likely is Africa Terra. This is Latin for the land of the Afri being a tribe of people that lived around Carthage. No matter what word Africa originally comes from, it started off as just referring to a small part of northern Africa around modern-day Tunisia, but eventually extended down to refer to the entire continent. We see something pretty similar with Asia. Contrary to popular belief, Asia is not named after the 80s rock band, but instead after the ancient Greek Asia, which was used to refer to the Anatolian Peninsula and then spread to refer to the whole continent. Now, Anatolia is often called Asia Minor or Little Asia. Asia also refers to the deity in Greek mythology, similar to the case for Europe. Contrary to popular belief, Europe is not named after the 80s rock band, but instead the Phoenician princess Europa from Greek mythology. Similarly to Asia and Africa, it started off as just referring to part of Thrace, but spread to refer to the entire continent. Now let's talk about Australia, which comes from the term Terra Australis, meaning southern land, which was a made-up continent that was posited to exist because people thought, surely the southern hemisphere must have as much land as the northern. They literally drew it on maps for the longest time. I bet they were really disappointed when they finally got there and all they found was Australia. Similarly southerly is Antarctica, which comes from the Greek Antarcticos, meaning opposite the Arctic. Arctic itself comes from the Greek Arctos for Ursa Major, or the Great Bear, a constellation you can only see in the northern hemisphere. So the Arctic and the Antarctic are named the one with the bear and the one without the bear, respectively. It's just a happy coincidence that the Arctic also happens to be the one with polar bears. Now let's go to South America, which, contrary to popular belief, is not named after the 70s rock band, but instead Italian explorer Amerigo Vespucci. The name America was first used to refer to America in 1507 in a map by German cartographer Martin Waldseemüller. In it, he labeled South America, and only South America, mind you, with the word America. This map was actually purchased for $10 million by the Library of Congress because it was the birth certificate of America. Of course, America is not just the United States, it's the entire continent. Bad Bunny did an excellent job of articulating this point in his Super Bowl halftime show. Later, this concept of America was then divided into the two continents of South and North America, though really it should be Southeast and Northwest America. If we look at this 1594 map by Petrus Placius, we can see that he called them Peruvian America and Mexican America, which I think is what I will be calling them from now on. Which brings us to Mexican America. It's the exact same etymology of Peruvian America. It is crazy that these whole entire continents are named after one guy. Amerigo Vespucci is definitely the person with the most land on Earth named after him. But who's second? What kind of places are named after people? It could be a continent like America, a country like Georgia, Azerbaijan, El Salvador, or Dominican Republic and Dominica, or a state like Tasmania in Australia, Santa Catarina in Brazil, Morelos, Hidalgo, Quintana Roo, Veracruz and Guerrero in Mexico, and Delaware, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Louisiana, and Georgia, different Georgia than the country Georgia, in the United States. Many of the states in the United States are named after people, especially in the original 13 colonies, since a big part of imperialism is showing up to someone else's land, saying it's yours, and naming it after whoever paid you to do it. At 140,000 square kilometers, we've got James Stewart, Duke of York, with New York. At 170,000 square kilometers, Queen Elizabeth, with Virginia and West Virginia. I feel like it would have been more normal to call it Elizabethia, but they tended to focus on the wrong thing back then. Slightly more than Queen Elizabeth is George Washington with, well, Washington. He's also got plenty of counties named after him, too. At 220,000 kilometers squared, we've got the only other person to have two U.S. states named after them, King Charles I. Charles in Latin is Carolus, hence North and South Carolina. But if we want some real scale, we'll have to go to Brazil and look at Cândido Rondon, who has the 240,000 square kilometer state of Rondônia named after him, and St. Paul, who has the 250,000 square kilometer state of Sao Paulo named after him. On the scale of entire countries, we've got the Philippines at 300,000 kilometers that are named after King Philip II of Spain, and Uzbekistan at 450,000 kilometers squared that's named after Uzbek Khan of the Golden Horde. Going to Canada, we've got the 500,000 square kilometer Baffin Island, named after William Baffin, and the 660,000 square kilometer Alberta, named for Princess Louise Caroline Alberta, Duchess of Argyll. In Africa, we have the 800,000 square kilometer Mozambique, named for Musa bin Bik, a ruler of the island of Mozambique, though I have a feeling they didn't call it that yet. In Peruvian America, we have the 1.3 million square kilometer Peru, named for Biru, a local ruler in Panama. If we want to find out our number 7, we have to go further south to the 1.6 million square kilometer Mary Byrd Land, named for Mary Byrd, the wife of explorer Richard Byrd. The next 4 are very close in total area. We've got Simón Bolívar, the only person on this list other than Cándido Rondón that I can say with confidence earned their spot, with Bolivia and Venezuela, as well as a bunch of provinces and settlements. For those of you wondering why Venezuela is colored in for Simón Bolívar, it's because its full name is the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. Next, we have Christopher Columbus, for whom Columbia, British Columbia, and many cities are named, including the US Capitol that manages to be named for both the slave owner George Washington and the child trafficker and genocidal maniac Christopher Columbus at the same time. Then, at 2.1 million square kilometers, we have Saud bin Muhammad al-Mukrim with Saudi Arabia. In third place, at 2.2 million square kilometers, with a combination of Queensland and Victoria in Australia and Victoria Island in Canada, we have Queen Victoria. And the person, with 2.7 million square kilometers of land named after them, second only to Amerigo Vespucci, we have Queen Maud of Norway, for whom Queen Maud Land, the territorial claim of Norway to Antarctica, that encompasses 1/5 of the continent, is named. Is that who you expected? Of course, this map is oversimplified. I'm missing many small nations, states, cities, and settlements. But if we were to include every place named after someone, the map would look like this. But if we say that it doesn't just have to be real people, then Bharat, the king from the Mahabharata, for whom India gets its official name, will take 5th place. Europa will take 4th. Rus, from the Slavic legend of the 3 brothers, Lech, Czech, and Rus, that founded the Poles, the Czechs, and the Rus, will take 3rd place. And Asia will take 1st. Of course, if we're allowing people from Greek mythology, like Europa and Asia, and we are willing to turn the clock back a little bit, then really, the person with the most land named after them would have to be Gaia, the Greek goddess of the earth, since Pangaea's name of all the earth comes from her. Well guys, you made it to the end of the video. I hope you liked it. This video took a lot of work and researching, scripting, and drawing all these beautiful maps. So I would really appreciate it if you would drop this video a like. While you're at it, you should go ahead and subscribe to my channel to see even more of my videos. If there were any eponyms that you wanted to see that I didn't talk about, or any questions you have about the ones I did include, make sure to drop them in the comments. Have a nice day!